Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. This is Hemalata from Pon Vidyashram. Today's session is continuation of chapter 2 from history book Our Pasts 1, from hunting gathering to growing food. In previous session we learned and understood why the hunter gatherers were moving from place to place and the difference of tools in shapes, size and uses which were used during different periods. Today we are going to study about early people, where they lived, why they prefer to live in that place, how they made tools, how was fire useful to them, what are the sources we found in sites to know more in detail about hunter-gatherers. Choosing a place to live in. Where did the hunter-gatherers live? Look at this map. This map shows some important archaeological sites. This is index of this map. Here many symbols were given and different time period of Stone Age were written. Each symbol represents different time period. Paleolithic sites, Neolithic sites, megalithic sites, early villages and modern cities. Before we learn about the places where hunter-gatherers lived, we will have a look into the time period, dates and names of the time period which were given by the archaeologists. Archaeologists have given lengthy names for the time that we are studying. They call the earliest period the Paleolithic. This comes from two Greek words, paleo meaning old and lithos meaning stone. The name points to the importance of finds of stone tools. The Paleolithic period extends from 2 million years ago to about 12,000 years ago. This long stretch of time is divided into Lower Paleolithic period, Middle Paleolithic period and Upper Paleolithic period. This long span of time covers 99% of human history. The period when we find environmental changes around the human beings beginning about 12,000 years ago till about 10,000 years ago is called the Mesolithic, Middle Stone. So stone tools found during this period are generally tiny and are called microliths. As we saw in our previous session, we saw some tools which are very tiny. So microliths were probably stuck on the handles of bone or wood to make tools such as saws and sickles. At the same time, older varieties of tools were also continued to be in use by the hunter-gatherers. The next stage from about 10,000 years ago is known as the Neolithic Age. We will study about Neolithic Age in upcoming sessions. Dear children, archaeologists had given names by dividing the time period with the evidences they found. As like that, try to divide the time period of your life and name them. It will be fun to do so. In this map, places marked with red triangles are sites where hunter-gatherers lived. Archaeologists have found evidence of hunter-gatherers here. In this map, only some places were marked as sites of hunter-gatherers. It doesn't mean that they lived only in these places. They lived in many more places. Only some were mentioned in this map. Many sites were located near water resources like rivers and lakes. So the Paleolithic sites, Bimbetka, Hansky and Kurnool caves. These are Paleolithic sites. Bimbetka. Bimbetka is in present-day Madhya Pradesh. Some sites, known as habitation sites, are places where people lived. These include caves and rock shelters, such as this picture. People chose these natural caves because they provided shelter from the rain, heat, and wind. Natural caves and rock shelters are found in the Vindhyas and the Deccan Plateau. These rock shelters are close to the Narmada Valley. As stone tools were important, people tried to find places where good quality stones was easily available. Places where stone was found and where people made tools are known as factory sites. How do we know where these factories were? Usually, we find blocks of stone, tools that were made and perhaps discarded because they were not perfect, and the chips of waste stone left behind at these sites. Sometimes people lived here for longer spells of time. These sites are called habitation cum factory sites, as the people lived there and also made some tools for their easy life. Children, how will you name the place where you reside? If you had to describe the place you live in, which of the terms would you choose? Habitation, factory, habitation cum factory, any other? Can you think of why people chose to live here? Mention some points and write it down. Many of the caves in which these early people lived have paintings on the walls. Some of the best examples are from Madhya Pradesh and southern Uttar Pradesh. Bimbetka is one of the sites in Madhya Pradesh where archaeologists found rock paintings. These paintings shows wild animals drawn with great accuracy and skill. Bimbetka rock shelters are series of natural rock shelters in the foothills of the Vindhya range, central India. They are situated some 28 miles south of Bhopal in west central Madhya Pradesh state. It was discovered in 1957. The complex consists of some 700 shelters and is one of the largest repositories of prehistoric art in India. The Bimbetka region is riddled with massively sculpted formations in the sandstone rock. On the Bimbetka sites, hills alone, where the bulk of the archaeological research has been concentrated since 1971. 243 shelters have been investigated, of which 133 contain rock paintings. In addition to the cave paintings, archaeologists have unearthed large numbers of artifacts in the caves and in the dense teak forests and cultivated fields around Bimbetka, the oldest of which are Acheulean stone tool assemblages. The paintings, which display great vitality and narrative skills, are categorized into different prehistoric periods. The oldest are dated to the late Paleolithic period, that is Old Stone Age, and consist of large linear representations of rhinoceros and bears. Paintings from Mesolithic Middle Stone Age times are smaller and portray, in addition to animals, human activities. Drawings from the Chalcolithic period, early Bronze Age showcase the early human conceptions of agriculture. Finally, the decorative paintings dating to early historical times depict religious motifs including tree gods and magical sky chariots. The caves provide a large glimpse at a sequence of cultural development from early nomadic hunter gatherers to settled cultivators to expression of spirituality. It has been observed that the present day cultural traditions of agrarian peoples inhabiting the villages surrounding Bhimbetka resemble those represented in the paintings. Sites. Sites are places where the remains of things, tools, pots, buildings, etc., were found. These were made, used, and left behind by people. These may be found on the surface of the earth, buried under the earth, or sometimes even underwater. An archaeological site is any place where there are physical remains of past human activities. There are many types of archaeological sites. Prehistoric archaeological sites are those without a written record. They may include villages or cities, stone quarries, rock art, ancient cemeteries, campsites, and megalithic stone monuments. A site can be as small as a pile of chipped stone tools left by the prehistoric hunter, or a site can be as large and complex as the prehistoric settlement like Bhimbetka. Historical archaeology sites are those where archaeologists can use writing to aid their research. Those could include densely populated modern cities or areas far below the surface of a river or the sea. The wide variety of historical archaeological sites include shipwrecks, battlefields, slave quarters, cemeteries, mills, and factories. Children, what is the name of the largest bird in the world? Ostrich. Yes. Do you know that ostriches lived in India? Yes. Ostriches were found in India during the Paleolithic period. Large quantities of ostrich egg shells were found at Patna in Maharashtra. Designs were engraved on some pieces. Beads were also made out of them. What do you think the beads would have been used for? Where do we find ostriches today? Find out. We studied that stone tools found in the sites are important historical evidences. How these stone tools were made? Stone tools were probably made using two different techniques. The first is called stone on stone. Here, the pebble from which the tool was to be made, also called the co, was held in one hand. Another stone, which was used as a hammer, was held in the other hand. The second stone was used to strike off flakes from the first, till the required shape was obtained. The second technique is pressure flaking. Here, the core was placed on a firm surface. The hammer stone was used on a piece of bone or stone that was placed on the core to remove flakes that could be shaped into tools. Kurnool Caves. A group of caves inhabited by ancient humans has been discovered in Akkampalli near Kurnool district. In the Paleolithic site at Kurnool Caves, traces of ash have been found, which means This suggests that the people were familiar with the use of fire and they know the technique of making it. Fire could have been used for making things as a source of light, to cook meat, and to scare away animals, to protect themselves from insects, and to keep them warm. Hansky. This is Hansky. Can you find it in the map? A number of early Paleolithic sites were found here. At some sites, a large number of tools used for all sorts of activities were found. These were probably habitation cum factory sites. In some of the other smaller sites, there is evidence to suggest that tools were made. Some of the sites were close to springs, as that is a water resource. Most tools were made from limestone, which was locally available. Around 12,000 years ago, there was major change in the climate, which led to many changes in the habits of Paleolithic people. We will study about the changes that happened after Paleolithic age and new way of lifestyle in our next session.